This is a fireside chat. I don't know quite why they're always called fireside chats, but this is going to be a conversation where we solve the problem of innovation in data and digital in the UK, in the USA, and in Germany, and globally. So my name's Tom. I'm the Chief Executive of the Government Digital Service, GDS, and I'm joined by two of the leading lights of digital in two different nations. Christina.
My name is Christina Lang. I'm founder and CEO of the Digital Service in Germany.
Hi, I'm Claire Martirana. I'm the Federal Chief Information Officer of the United States.
Fantastic. So just to get us going, Claire, can you just spend a few minutes talking about the context of your role in the White House,
Sure.
the US situation, non-politically, the US situation in terms of technology, and what is your mission? What are you trying to achieve?
Thank you. The United States government is large and complex. We have about 430 federal agencies, which is quite a gigantic ecosystem. We have 24 agencies that we call CFO Act agencies. They're the largest. They're Department of Homeland Security, Veterans Affairs, IRS, or Treasury that manages our revenue and taxes. So what we have been doing for the last several years in the United States is focusing on digital transformation, right? Like most other countries where technology has evolved, cloud computing costs have come down. We really are able to modernize many of our systems. But like other countries, and what is so wonderful about working with such tremendous colleagues is we really all learn from each other. Because just like every agency in the United States is on their own journey, depending on their mission and their maturity. Globally, we're all on our own journeys, but there's so much that we can learn from each other. So we've been focused on cybersecurity, job number one, day in and day out. That is part of my remit as federal CIO, is making sure that our cybersecurity across those federal agencies is top of mind. Then making sure that we are delivering for our customers. Customer experience is kind of the what. Digital experience is the how. How are we going to be delivering? So we've been putting out guidance since last time I joined you both, we've put out quite a bit of guidance to help federal agencies implement digital services or improve the services that they already deliver. Part of what the large focus is for us at this moment is data. Right? Data is the linchpin to us being able to deliver these services, understand our ecosystem, and then from that data, it comes down to the infrastructure that we have, right? All of the basics of IT operations across the federal ecosystem. So we have been focused on trying to drive the service delivery to the public, improve that, but also not forget that we have all of this other work to do on the back end to make sure that we're bringing those systems along so that we are funding those systems, because the operating cost of some of these older technologies are just becoming really burdensome. And in addition, many of them become outdated and can't be patched, so they're not secure. So we are constantly juggling that, and I think that's thematic across my colleagues in the US, private sector and public sector, as well as colleagues internationally.
Fantastic, thank you. Christina, same question.
Yeah, actually, this resonates a lot. I'm not the German CIO, but I lead an internal digitalization unit of roughly 150 people, digital talents that's being contracted by the different ministries in Germany on a project basis to deliver software products, but also to deliver other strategic digital transformation initiatives. And where we started was actually being focused on the application layer. So delivering user-centered products. But what we realized quickly is that in Germany, the fundamental requirements for the way we want to work, agile, user-centered, iterative, are not being supported by the IT governance and the IT systems that we have in Germany. So our current mission and our strategy is to go deep with selected project partners who trust us, and we fix the setup. So we look at the underlying infrastructure, the data classification, interoperability standards, all the things that need to be fixed in this specific setup in order to find a lasting operating model for the products we want to deliver, and then to advise government on how these things that we find can be learnings for the government as a whole, so lead to more systemic change.
Yeah.
Really interesting. There's quite a lot of parallels there. One thing that I'm really interested in the UK, we have devolved nations, but we are much more centralized as a government than a lot of countries, and that, I think, gives us some advantages in, well, you can't tell departments what to do, but you can strongly encourage people to follow patterns and so on. Both of your countries, I think, are quite federal and quite sort of have strong provinces and states. Can you talk a bit about is that a real inhibitor to getting things done, or does it not cause much of a problem? I don't know who wants to start.
I'll jump in.
I'm reading your facial expressions.
Yeah, exactly. The federal government delivers, we don't necessarily deliver services to the state, we deliver funding. And then states work together sometimes on things like driver's license standards so that they're interoperable among states, but we do not run that program, right? So we deliver money, the states then deliver those services to the public. We do many things that actually enable state digital delivery, like having systems that are completely interoperable, web design systems and standards that are interoperable, and that open source code that most states can actually pick up and utilize, that either is coming from the federal government or as a shared service, or basically because it's open source. States are possibly designing, adding interaction designs to a library, and then we across the federal ecosystem can benefit from it. So it's a partnership, but it is not a daily interaction. Our daily remit is really on the federal level, and then allowing those states to do the work on their own.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I think I can perfectly add on to that, because we sometimes look to the UK and are a bit jealous of you being able to set more standards, maybe reinforce thinking in platforms and common solutions more than we can do in a federated system. But I don't think federalism is an excuse for the lack of digitalization. The internet, at the end of the day, is a federated system. So I think you need to think differently about how to govern and where you want to set central standards, or want to have everyone adhere to the same standards, and where do you want to enable the states to find individual solutions. So I think in Germany we struggle a lot with finding common platforms and standards, because we have strong states with their different internal IT providers that have long-lasting also procurement relationships, and they don't necessarily have a lot of, now that there's no central funding anymore from the federal level, to standardize their services. But at the same time, for us it might be a little bit easier to find a common way of working together across federal levels. I'm not sure if you see that, but for example, with the Ministry of Justice, we currently were able to find a new collaborative way of establishing product delivery and thinking in common platforms from the federal level, across states, and even to local courts, which might not be as easy when you have a central government.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So let's say you didn't have these restrictions and you were in charge of everything. What would citizen-facing digital services look like in 5 years? If you could just design it yourselves, what does good look like?
Looks like your favorite private sector company that you rely on to order a car, deliver a service, right? That it's, mobile first, not, the government is challenging because we have to meet every single member of the public where they are, right? We can't leave people behind. So we're assuming everyone is banked. We're assuming people have mobile devices. And that's not true across the board in the United States. But if we were trying to drive this technology innovation, we would have probably services that were completely personalized to you. You had complete and total control of your data, and you allowed your data to go wherever you wanted it to go, but you were 100% from a privacy and security perspective in charge of that. And then systems would easily be configured and designed for your consumption and benefit. But that's a little bit magical thinking, I think, from where we are today to where we need to go. We still have so much foundational work to do, both on the policy side as well as on the implementation side.
It's funny, Christina, you said sometimes you look at the UK and you're envious. We always look at Estonia. Are there any Estonians in the room? No Estonians in the room. So I'll probably get this wrong, but nobody will correct me. So the two amazing things in Estonia, which is obviously a smaller country, very centralized, etc. One is through their service, you can look at all of your government data and see who's accessed it for what. Right. It's like so cool. That is so transparent. And the second thing I love that they've done there, and we need to come on to this in a minute, is they've just legislated an awful lot of their changes. So they've put in their Tell Us Once law, which basically says departments are not allowed to ask the citizen for a bit of information that another bit of government's already asked them. Yeah. So they didn't say, we mandate you build APIs. Right. They said, you're not allowed to ask them again. So they were like, oh, cool, right, we need to actually do data sharing. We need to build sort of like a service bus for government, which is really cool. So we look at them and just like, oh, if only we could do that. Yeah. But Christina, what's your vision? Is it similar to the Estonia thing, or do you think that's sort of your country's too different?
Actually, I think I can follow Claire quite a bit. I would add to that that good digital government is proactive and automated where it can be. And sometimes I feel all of us working in government, we take ourselves too seriously and too importantly. Most of the citizens, where they don't have to, they just want to be left alone, and they want to be able to go about their business and have the government help them where they're eligible for help and need it, but not to interact like massively with government services. So automate where possible, digitalize it where possible, but not digital only, digital first, but still to reach the groups and communities that are not like digital natives and that still need government in an analog way. I think we won't get rid of that in the next 5 years. But I hope through digitalization we will be able to focus the efforts of the people who work in government on like accessing and helping the citizens, the businesses, the communities all over the country where they need to, instead of like having to do mundane administrative work that they currently, at least in Germany, do quite a lot still on paper.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Next thing I want to talk about, because we have to, is AI. So one of the things I've liked from the last couple of days in this conference is the level of hype around AI has just calmed down a little bit compared to a year ago. We're sort of 18 months on from the launch of ChatGPT. Where are you on the spectrum of we're all going to die to this is going to make everything amazing, and then in the middle it's all hype? Where are you on this? That's not really spectrum, is it? But where are you on this? So start with you, Christine.
Yeah, maybe I start on this one. So I think Germany is in the ranks of, oh, this is a new thing. We are probably still a bit more in the hype phase because we're not the early adopters. So we're trying out new applications in government context. We sandbox things. I think quite notably in Germany, we're very reluctant to test and work with non-EU large language models or AI tools.
That's a problem.
So we still have to find a common approach to how and why we want to use which tools and which not. Something that concerns me a bit is that this hype that we have around AI leads to discussions if even decision-making processes should be supported, or even like final decision-making could be done by AI. And I don't want to be in a world where the data collection, data processing still is being done manually, and then we have discussions around decision-making done by AI. So we need to fix the foundations, get the basics right, and then we can think about how to enhance our work by new technology.
I like that a lot. It does slightly feel like all of the cool jobs are being taken by AI and all the grunt work still being done by humans. It's weird, isn't it? Claire, what are your views?
We're done. We're finished. We're good.
Yep.
We're good. No, we're on a journey, right?
Yeah.
There's incredible risk to AI. AI systems. We don't want AI making benefits determinations for human beings based on data that is not accurate and credible. So we have a lot of work to do. It goes back to kind of the early conversation about infrastructure and data in general. One thing, there was a speaker this morning that showed some slides about top U.S. tech companies, and we really are advanced in many of these areas, but AI still terrifies people. It also confuses the workforce a little bit, where we have not put out crystal clear guidance. Each agency determines how their employees can utilize generative AI, and that's a little all over the place. So we're trying to create policies that clarify that for everybody, so we're all proceeding in the same way. But we've done some really amazing things. The president wrote an executive order on AI, both for the federal government and basically for our economic sectors, providing kind of guardrails. We did it in an incredibly thoughtful way, which was through human-centered policy design, where we went out and spoke to academics, researchers, private industry, our national labs, across the entire ecosystem and the public, and allowed them to see a draft of our guidance and provide feedback on that. We then had to adjudicate all of those comments. Many of the comments made our policies better. So that was really beneficial. Some of them raise things, that are existential threats that we can't answer through policy guidance in 2024. Yeah. And then we have, so that's the what. And what is our vision and thoughts about AI? And then my office actually then writes the how. How does each federal agency go on their journey? So we did some very important things in the executive order, which started with naming a chief AI officer in each agency. And it needed to be a senior official. It doesn't need to be a data scientist. It needs to be a responsible person that can convene all of the people in the agency, bring them all together so they're making informed decisions about the use of AI in their mission. Because every mission is different. The Department of Energy is different than Veterans Affairs delivering health care to veterans. So making sure that those agencies are, from top to bottom, managing this, and then also bringing the entire technology team along. Because this isn't just a policy challenge. This is a full stack challenge. It is from the leadership of these organizations to the people that are actually, securing and managing our infrastructure in the agency. So we've been trying to mature ourselves in that way so that we aren't making baseline mistakes like not training the workforce to understand that this proprietary data set, it's a point I was going to make with the gentleman that I referenced earlier this morning, that he named all these big US companies. The United States government has, as your countries as well, has so much incredibly valuable proprietary data. And we should not be uploading that data into, language models that are public, right? So we have to make sure we're training the workforce, we're keenly aware of what we're doing, how we're managing our data, how we're interacting with generative AI, and trying to create, I heard the last panel talking about sandboxes, right? Making sure you're creating the right environment where we can test and learn safely and securely. And then share those learnings keenly and quickly across the entire ecosystem. So these chief AI officers at agencies are the kind of the point of the spear. They're the place that gathers this knowledge and information. And I think they're going to really help drive the way that we adapt and adopt AI in the federal government.
And actually, I think what you just described links our conversation greatly back to the point you made earlier about Estonia, where they rule, like they govern more, they give out rulings that you don't have in the UK. What we see in Germany also is it's not just about the policy work, the what, but also about how you implement it then afterwards. So we focus usually a lot on what's being set in stone as the rules, but then people are left alone with how do we actually comply with it? How can we implement it into our daily work? So if, for example, what we do, it's not around AI, but with digital-ready legislation. So policy design work is that we have a support team and we have methods and toolkits that help lawmakers then to implement these rulings in their daily work. And we have review cycles with them in order to understand, is the policy actually working the way we intended it to, or do we need to adjust it? Yep. So focusing also on how can we actually implement what we intend with the policies that we give out.
That's really interesting. So let's stick on that for a minute. So there's, if you look at some of the things that don't always work in UK government, one of them is the separation between policy and then operational delivery, and digital somewhere in between. We usually sort of get the policy a bit too late, then try to make a digital service that sort of works, and then hope that the policy actually was right in the first place. Are you able to influence policymakers to actually change the way they're legislating?
So what we're trying to do with something called digital check, digital readiness check in Germany, is at least from how digital ready is a law that's being discussed, to bring in the principles of digital delivery already in the decision-making process or in the drafting of a law. And we do that not only by educating lawmakers, but also by bringing in the people who actually have to implement the policy later on, through discussion rounds or workshops, and also digital talent, to help lawmakers design legislation. Often it's more about what do they have to leave out, what shouldn't they rule in the first place, so that there's still the opportunity to design user-centered afterwards. But I'd be interested to hear how you did it with the AI policy design.
Yeah, it's similar, but I think we have tried to be incredibly thoughtful and forward-leaning, as other countries are as well, in the bias issues, in the risk issues, in the challenges of AI. I don't know that we have done as thoughtful a job as is on our plate to do in actually interacting with our lawmakers. Yeah. Our lawmakers are oftentimes hearing from the private sector, hearing from organizations, also civil society, all of these stakeholder groups, and then they are trying to process that themselves. And so I think we have an opportunity to continue to improve that, because that is a place that you can get a little bit out of sync. Yeah. So we've been focused, by hearing in that policy design for the executive order, then the policy design for the implementation guidance. I think that those have been very clear signals to our legislative colleagues that these are best practice guidelines that have been vetted by this very large community of people that all have a stake in the way that our government designs AI and utilizes AI through our ecosystem.
That's really interesting. Thank you. I don't know if we've got roaming microphones. I think we'll see if there's any audience questions. We have one right here. Sorry, I should have given you some notice there. We've got one just at the front here.
Sorry. Good morning. I'm Claire. I work at MHRA, CDTO there, so that's the equivalent to your FDA and EMA. I'm interested in not just your fabulous shoes, Claire, but when you're talking about sharing, whether it's sort of lessons learned, knowledge sharing, literally code, those sorts of tangibles, but it sounds like just within your country, between the states and so on, and in your case, maybe within the EU, what's the appetite like for collaboration, however that looks along the spectrum, knowledge sharing or some tangible collaboration on platforms and code and so on, outside of your countries and your regions?
Yeah, open source data, we have tried to lead and keep pace with open government data work that has been happening across the world, right? It's really been a very large global movement. I think we still have, people are eager to collaborate. We know, I used a quote yesterday that none of us are as smart as all of us. And I find that everywhere I go, everyone I talk to, people in states, local government, in the federal government, at agencies, we all feel the same thing. We all feel the same pressures to deliver for the public, but also do it in a thoughtful, methodical, repeatable manner. So I see this as an area that we have to continue to be clear with our legislative colleagues as well, to make sure that we have the right guardrails for safety and, like in AI, trustworthy uses of AI, making sure industry's being transparent, making sure we're being transparent. And I think we're trying to lead by example. One of the things that we have been doing for AI, for example, for several years is being public about the use cases of AI in every single agency in the federal government. There's a legal requirement that they publish that, and then we consolidate that on AI.gov. So you can go to Department of Energy only, or you can go to AI.gov and see what Department of Energy is doing. And so state and local governments are eager to solve these problems as well. And I think the transparency that we're trying to exhibit in this administration is really the barometer of how effective we're going to be collaborating across the ecosystem.
Christina, any thoughts?
I share that view.
Great, thank you. It's a weird room, isn't it? It's very long. Is there any other questions?
There's one over there.
Right, we've got one here and one sort of over there somewhere. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Zoe from Newton, which is a consultancy that helps government clients, amongst others. We've heard a few times today that the fundamentals in digital and data can really prevent us from doing innovation, or at least from kind of executing it well. I just wondered what your perspectives were on whether there's a silver bullet to fix that, or if it's a question of what's getting the right sort of fundamentals in place to really make a difference. And Christina, you touched on kind of agile versus sort of waterfall delivery, which I think we see as a massive challenge in big organizations and big sort of IT departments. So I just really wonder if there's what do you think we should be doing now to change that? Because it feels like that's such a thing that hampers us in many, many places.
So I just said, what I believe is you can create momentum best if you have early value to show for. So go in somewhere, try to deliver value, try to fix the fundamentals while you provide a benefit to some users, even if it's small in the beginning. And then what we saw when we, starting late, compared international success examples is usually there was a momentum also by some external factors, like there was healthcare.gov, or there was like stark funding changes that then you had, if you then have good examples, success stories of what can be done short term and how you can link it to long-term tech transformation, I think that's a good place to start, but it's definitely not a silver bullet.
Yeah.
Anything to add, Claire?
I agree. That's why we get along so well.
Fantastic. Question over there.
Hi, I was at a conference not long ago where there were some big IT companies, and I challenged them about helping teenagers more in social media to stop bullying, cyberbullying, all of that. That's a massive problem for our youths. They basically said that if they do anything, the share price comes down. And it's for governments. What can we do as countries coming together to protect our youths from things like social media bullying?
So this is it's a hot topic. I don't want to pick on you because most of the social media companies are American. But what is our role as governments to regulate social media, particularly for vulnerable young people?
I think the thing that we're seeing right now with AI is because we missed a moment. and we did not completely understand technology, and we did not think about second and third order consequences of some of the beautiful, brilliant tools we developed. So I think that you're seeing governments around the world responding to the challenges that we're all dealing with in our countries for young people, lonely people, right? Like the dimensions of some of these challenges are huge. But I think that what I am recognizing in our government right now with AI is we cannot miss this moment because we are now all responding to something that we didn't legislate enough or frankly understand well enough. So it is why I am quite optimistic about AI, because we're talking about rights and harm and bias and trust and all of these things that are so critical for governments to protect their populations, to empower their populations. But those are the fundamental things that government has to do with excellence and care and empathy. And I think we are really trying to puzzle our way through that with AI.
Thank you. And Christina, is this a problem in Germany?
I think it is. I'm not on the governance side of digital policy making in Germany, but more on the
But you speak for the
delivery
whole
side.
of German government, right?
Of course I do. So I think I can completely relate to what Claire said. One thing maybe to add is we shouldn't try and die in beautiful theory, and we need to accept where we missed chances, where we weren't ready as a government, where we should have maybe played a role that we weren't able to, but at the same time accept the realities as they are and find a pragmatic way forward, even if it means also taking into accountability making companies accountable for and taking them into making them responsible for helping us to find a way forward. I think it's similar to the question of do we have a silver bullet, or could we? If we could design everything on a green table, I don't even want to think about that, because we can't. Yeah. We have legacy IT. We have as a government a gap in tech talent that we're just slowly trying to close. Industry has run away a little bit and had this new green field that they were able to play in. Now we need to figure out how to govern and how to enable and how to find a way forward together.